Well, everyone, we have a problem. I fear that in our quest for individualism and personal freedom, we have gone a step too far and created an unsustainable society. We are somehow more connected than ever and simultaneously lonelier than ever. We have access to more technology, entertainment, education than ever before, and we are the least happy we have ever been. We've made monumental advances in medicine and psychology, yet our childbirth death rate is rising, along with our rates of self-harm. We have dating apps and social media to connect us to more people than ever, yet our relationship satisfaction is the lowest it has ever been, and our divorce rates are the highest they have ever been. Many of the few children we are having are growing up with fathers that do not have an active daily role in their life and home, and many more are being effectively raised by the state. In both our personal relationships and on a societal level, men and women have never been less on the same team. Let's talk about men first. They are losing themselves to adult content, video games, social media, and television, which has destroyed their productivity and potential the same way that drug, alcohol, or gambling addictions would. They are forgoing real-life relationships for parasocial ones on OnlyFans and their human conversations with AI-generated ones. They are falling behind in education and in the workforce, even in the trades, which have always been dominated by men. The retirement rate is greater than the recruitment rate. When the red pillars say that men are going their own way, that certainly seems to be true, and where they are going is not good. They no longer value the opposite sex, and they are no longer valued in return. Problem does not lie solely at the feet of men. Women are spending their reproductive years focusing on their careers, and as a result, we are only a few generations away from being unable to sustain our own aging population. They report the lowest rates of happiness and the highest rates of depression since we've started tracking these things. They are taking in the creation of adult content and sex work at a higher rate than ever in history, with some predictions stating that 5 to 10% of Gen Z women will partake in sex work of some kind during their lifetime. This is just a small peek into the issues that are facing our society. We are facing many other political and cultural divisions, but I don't think those matter as much as we think they do. There is this idea that politics are downstream of culture. What this means is that cultural trends and ideas are what shape our political ideologies and inform our political actions and discussions. I believe it goes one step further. The fundamental basis for human society is the relationship between men and women. If we are not on the same team in both society and our personal lives, then our cultural bonds will fail and our political cohesion will follow. As time has gone on and the relationship between men and women has deteriorated, our ideas of how to proceed with our culture and norms for society have become more divisive, and in turn, our political ideologies have grown further apart. There seem to be three main theories. The theory that seems to have the most growth in recent years is usually referred to as the red pill. Generally speaking, the red pill posits that feminist ideology has destroyed the natural order of relationships between men and women. It encourages men to place women into two categories. The first category, known as the recreational use category, is just reserved for women who embrace feminist ideology or embrace the ideas of the sexual revolution. Men are told to use these women for practice for when they encounter the second category. The second category, the relationship category, is reserved for women with modest and submissive personality traits and a distinct lack of promiscuity. Men are also told to forego porn, video games, television, and other distractions to focus on hitting the gym, networking, and making money to become high-value, top 10% men, so that they can have their pick of the top women and, I guess, leverage them into behaving modestly and submissive. Interesting theory. Another theory is known as the Tradcon approach. This theory posits that men and women should return to what we consider to be their traditional conservative gender roles. Similarly to the red pill, Tradcons generally blame feminism and liberalism for the downfall of nuclear families and the collapse of the relationship between men and women in society. This theory is usually paired with some sort of Judeo-Christian values, but some secularists have endorsed it as well. It essentially proposes that we should return to the 1950s and stay there. Women should forgo higher education to birth and raise children while men work to provide for and protect their families. Our final theory, while sometimes referred to as the blue pill, doesn't seem to actually have an agreed upon name, as it essentially just describes accepting the situation we're in and encouraging people to do as they please and pursue personal goals without any emphasis being placed on family creation, monogamy, or any type of gendered roles in society. It is essentially the opposite of the competing theories and is rooted in feminist and progressive ideology. Now, I believe all of these theories have certain positive aspects as well as negative aspects. The red pill, for example, does a decent job of outlining a strategy for men to advance their lives, but the conclusion they arrive at is not beneficial to society. And their outline of the dynamic between men and women leads men to have unnecessarily negative views towards women in general. It also encourages an extremely materialistic view of the world, which I think we all generally agree is not ideal. The Tradcon approach does a very good job of promoting nuclear families and procreation, but restricts women from many of the opportunities they have come to enjoy over the last 50 to 100 years, which I highly doubt they would be willing to relinquish. For good reason. The blue pill does a good job of elevating the value of women in both relationships and society, but like the red pill, it encourages absurd partner expectations and materialism. It lowers the value that we place on our relationships by treating them as more interchangeable and assigning them a second or third order goal in life instead of a first order priority. It seems clear and obvious to me that none of these theories provides a holistic solution to the problems we are facing. It also seems clear to me that the situation we are currently in is unsustainable. We need to make major changes to our culture's trajectory, and we need to do it as soon as possible. You may now be wondering if I'm planning on getting to a point, and I unfortunately must inform you that I am not. At least not in this video. I do have some ideas of how we can start to repair these deteriorating bonds in our society. However, we are going to save those for another time. You know, I was content. I didn't want to get involved. I work a blue-collar job that provides sufficiently for me. I do well enough with the opposite sex, so I don't have many complaints there. I have hobbies and interests that generally fulfill me. I enjoy the outdoors and music and some video games to wind down after it all. It just got so loud. Louder and louder to the point where a person who is simply experiencing a content existence cannot interact with any part of society without being inundated with all of the noise. So, here I am. I've decided to call myself the Repairman. And I hope that I will be able to live up to that claim. I will be doing more prepared content, as well as going live to critique and react to the social and political commentary and debates of others. And I'm also open to engaging in debates against any interested parties. Until then, farewell.